What's up, everybody? Welcome to the State of Wild episode 103, a regular YouTube video web series podcast thingy. My name is Meowth, and as usual, I'm joined by my two good friends and co-host, Raffle and Corbett. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. I don't know if you've heard, but a new expansion came out.
Whoa,
And,
really?
yeah, I'm making this announcement in part because a lot of my opponents don't seem to have noticed. So, like, for those of you out there watching, a new expansion came out. You can play new cards. It's not just Big Priest and Pirate Rogue, but I personally have been enjoying the new cards quite a bit, in spite of that. And I think that the expansion has had a rather large impact on the metagame, as we'll see. It's just for whatever reason, people are reluctant to play the new cards.
Yeah, it was kind of very funny the first few days of the expansion where I think that a lot of the players that I'm playing against are highly engaged and like they're very experimental. But I heard from a lot of people saying all I'm seeing is Pirate Rogue and Big Priest. And then like I had a look at HS Replay and it's like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of Pirate Rogue and Big Priest since the expansion. But I think Wild players in general, it just takes a little bit of time. They're just a bit more entrenched in playing their old decks and they need to know what to net deck and they need to be listening to the State of Wild to find out what to play and in the upcoming week.
Yep, and that's what we're here. We're going to talk about all the stuff that's been good, all the stuff that's been bad, and give you guys some deck codes to net deck down in the description below. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. The expansion's been super fun. It's been out for about 5 days at the time of us recording this podcast. And so we're just going to kind of go through and talk about just first impressions, what's felt really strong, what's been working for us. And so I just want to start at kind of some stuff that we kind of knew was kind of obvious that it was going to be good. So let's just start with the Warlock stuff, right? Let's start with imps, right? We're talking about Vial Library, which is the location that buffs a minion equal to the number of imps that you control. You've got Impending Catastrophe, the card draw spell, the 2-mana draw 6, draw 7, and even the new 1-drop that very quickly becomes a 5/3 or 6/3 as early as like turn 2, turn 3. So I think a lot of people have just been messing around with it in a pure imp Warlock. So very similar to a Zoo deck, kind of a similar shell to what Discard Warlock used to be. It's seemed pretty good. I've seen some people hitting rank 1 legend. It's been seeing success across multiple servers. And so I guess what's y'all impression? Do you guys agree that it's a good deck? And then kind of ultimately, how good do you think this deck can be? Like, what do you think the potential of this deck is long term?
Yeah, I think that the deck seems like the real deal. My build of it was horrendously bad. And that's fine. Like I tried to squeeze Galakron stuff into it, which just wasn't necessary. And I think the deck excels in that at that sort of speed of either like a cute lock or a discard warlock, and wants to be pretty low curve. Standout cards, like you mentioned, seem to be Impending Catastrophe. We knew that going in. Vial Library seems to be overperforming my expectations of it. That may be one of the best cards in the deck. Possibly like giving Impending Catastrophe a run for its money in terms of like the power that it provides, because like I said, it really wants to be a pretty quick deck. And then Reform also looks pretty good as just kind of like an Arbor Up. Like an Arbor Up, you don't need to refill the board if you already have a board that you can just buff instead, and that seems pretty good. So like, yeah, deck seems good. I think we're probably pretty close in terms of the refinement of the list, just because like you play the imp cards and you play the new really strong imp synergies, and like that's your deck. So I think we're probably pretty close to a refined list, and probably what we're seeing now is about as well as it's likely to perform. If it may, drop a little bit once people start refining other decks that it's queuing into that maybe take a little bit more time to refine. But as of now, I think what you see is what you're going to get.
Kind of funny. It's reminding me a lot of Pirate Rogue in the last expansion, where it's pretty obvious, right? Like you type in the word pirate, you put in the pirates. You type in the word imp, you put in the imp. With pirates, it took a little bit of time just figuring out like, oh, do we want raiding party? Like, oh, like, do we want Fellwing? Do we want amalgam? Do we want cutlass? Like, how many puffer fists are people playing? And so there was some like dancing around those kind of like last 5 or 6 cards. And we're seeing the same thing with Imp Block, where you type in the word imp, you put all those cards in, and then you have like 24 good cards, and that's pretty good. And then you can kind of go in a couple directions. You can either run the Expired Merchant Hand of Gul'dan discard package for like more fuel, more draw, or you can just play some more demons, like just low curve demons, and that's also pretty strong as well. So I personally think the demons are probably going to be what wins out, but it's very early. I think that Imp Block is definitely benefiting a lot from being, a pretty easy deck to build. Like it's definitely one of the easier things to put together from the expansion, but still very, very strong. Expect this to be powerful. And yeah, I'm really regretting my top 5 strongest picks. I was opening up the Google Doc, I was like, which imp card did I say was the top 5 powerful thing last week? And I got it wrong, because I thought it was the 2-mana Draw 7, but that's actually the second best imp card that we got. Because I think the Vial Library is so busted, I wouldn't be surprised if that gets a little bit of a nerf pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think a trend that, maybe we'll talk about is like locations in general have felt like they've been very overperforming. Yeah. I think we made the same mistake. At least I did, of evaluating like I did quest lines where it's like, I don't know if they're going to be fast enough. They might be too slow in Wild. And then, no, it turns out a lot of them are still like insanely strong. And Vial Library is one of those. It very easily is a 2-mana like +5/+5 or 2-mana +6/+6, which is something you're paying 4 or 5 mana for usually. And so when it comes down to 2 and then you get to play it twice for 1 card, pretty strong. I do worry a little bit about, like, I think Imp Block will be good, but I think eventually at higher ranks people are going to go back towards playing stuff like Free Shaman and Pirate Rogue, which feel like very difficult matchups in my experience for Imp Block. So I don't know if it'll be one of those top 3 or 4 decks in the format, but I think it'll be, I think similar to something like Mech Mage or Mech Paladin, where it was, those 2 decks were like in VS reports and all that stuff were like tier 2, tier 3 decks, right? Like tier 2, high tier 3. I think Imp Block is going to fall into that same category. Obviously, it's way too early to tell. But I think the fact that it has like rough matchups into stuff like Pirate Rogue and Free Shaman that don't look like they're going anywhere makes me a little hesitant about just kind of like long-term future for the deck.
Yeah, that's personally and independently kind of where I peg the deck, as well as kind of comparing it to the mech decks, especially Mech Paladin, because I could very well foresee this falling off a popularity cliff as well once the novelty wears off, despite it being a pretty reasonably successful deck. It has similarities in Radio Detector and Impending Catastrophe as well. So like it just has like I feel like it's about the same power level, very different matchup spreads, because I feel like a Mech Paladin like wants to queue into a Pirate Rogue, for instance, but I would say probably similar in terms of power level, just based on what I've observed so far. And I think because of people fall off of like the minion type decks pretty quickly, unless it's a Pirate Rogue that is just like the dominant aggro deck. So I could very well see people moving off of it again once the novelty wears off.
Yeah, the mech comparison is pretty good. It also reminds me of Murloc Shaman, like now that you bring it up. It does seem funny that we do have this like collection of aggro decks that are all as tribal and like seem to perform very, very well, like Diamond and things like that, but just like fall off a top legend. Obviously, that's kind of a pattern that we've seen in the past, but in Wild right now, it does seem like we have a particularly high number of those. And so, yeah, we'll have to see where it ends up landing, but I'm sure Imp Block will be very, very solid, particularly outside that like top player bracket, basically.
Yep. All right, let's talk about another Warlock card here. One that's kind of making me look like a fool if you look back at our last episode, but let's talk about Tome Tampering. And so Tome Tampering is kind of the opposite of what we've seen from the Imps, right? This is a card that does not have a very obvious way to build the deck. And so a lot of people have been messing around with it from pure Tome Tampering style decks, which I played a lot of day one, guys. I went like 3-14. It was
Nice.
not good.
I had to warn you.
Yeah, well, hey, maybe it's just player skill issue. Maybe I just suck, and there's actually like a real good Tome Tampering deck out there. But I do want to bring it up because I've actually seen a lot in Mechathune Warlock, where people are now running this package of just regular Mechathune Warlock, but you're running 2 Malchezaar's Imps, 2 Tome Tamperings, and 1 copy of Hand of Gul'dan. And so you're replacing, if I remember correctly, you're replacing Vol'jin, you're replacing like Coils, Runic Egg, or Thalnos, and Dirty Rats and Mechathune. And the idea basically is theoretically to speeding up your clock, your average turn that you're comboing, with some potential high rolls, right? Because you always have the ability to go like 1 mana Mechathune, 1 mana Hemet, 1 mana like Cataclysm. You always have high roll potential at the risk of like you're cutting Dirty Rats, right? So like your combo matchups become basically unwinnable. But I do think it's interesting. I think it might have a home in some other styles of combo decks. I guess the real question is like, are you seeing any success with Tome Tampering outside of that? And do you think that it has like a home in Mechathune?
Outside of Mechathune, I haven't seen the card played successful. I've seen the card played. I've played the card. I have not seen it played successfully. And I have not really seen like the boogeyman that the card was meant to be going into the expansion, that people were, afraid of this being the Warlock card that does the Breaking Wild things that we're used to. And that was pretty clear to me, honestly, during the theory crafting stream. Like it revealed itself very quickly once you got to start playing with the card, how slow developing and unreliable a 2 or 3 card combo like that is. Now that changes a little bit in Mechathune, where you're already drawing so many cards and drawing so quickly to where you can get them in hand a little bit quicker. But like, I don't know, maybe it speeds up the average turn. It feels like it's it's a little bit more feast or famine, where you could, if you miss the combo or have to wait until you actually have the Mechathune in hand to rip the combo, you could get slowed down a little bit. Like if Mechathune is at the bottom of your deck, that would be a bit of a bummer and isn't necessarily the same problem that like a Vol'jin version would have. But because the highs are higher, maybe you're able to get out from under another combo deck and combo faster, so you don't need the Dirty Rats, I imagine, is the idea. So I don't know. This is one where like we would probably need a lot of data to be able to determine which one is actually faster. I don't know. I haven't played the Mechathune. I've played against it a few times, and I've had a few high rolls against me, which felt pretty bad. But like, there were a lot of times I was just because I was playing a matchup where I was going to lose to Mechathune anyway. So it's like, did that really change the way that did that really change the outcome of the game? Not really. I was losing that matchup. Like, part of Mechathune's success is its like polarity in matchups, and so we'll see.
Yeah, the clip that I saw was Swag TV, shout out Swag, doing the full Mechathune combo on turn 6. Therefore, the combo's broken, right? Like, definitely. But no, it's so hard to tell, right? Because you see something powerful like that, and it's hard to figure out like how much you lose against aggro, running like all these dead cards, and like how much the speeding up even matter. Like, it's just complicated. So I totally agree with Ruffle there. But yeah, the Tome Tampering like Wombo combo clown deck, or I don't know, cheat out big minion deck, not looking good for you, Meowth. Looking like a bit of a deck of chaos situation here.
Hey, there's still 3.5 months, okay? Don't worry. Something's gonna pop up. Just I promise.
I mean, unlike Deck of Chaos, this is like, it's playable card. Like, it's seen play in some decks, and like it could work. It could actually win Hearthstone games if you play it in the more big bomb focused version. So
I mean, technically, Deck of Chaos was also playable, and you could also still technically win games. These are a lot of technicalities. Yeah, it's not looking good for me in just like the pure like Darkest Hour style high roll deck, but yeah, I mean, I do think that it's a card with a lot of potential, and it is still early. Like I said, it's been 5 days. I don't know, how long did it take for stuff like Snip Snap Warlock and Darkest Hour to like, or not Darkest Hour, Dark Lair to pop up?
Dark Lair took about a week to 10 days. Snip Snap was almost like an entire expansion until like people figured it out, and then it wasn't until the following expansion that it kind of popped off. In terms of like really late development stuff in Wild, there's not really too many. I guess like Beast Hunter's actually like one of a good example of like a Wild deck that took like a couple months to really catch on. So it does happen. It's just, you know.
All I'm hearing is that there's time. That's all I'm hearing.
There's a chance. Never tell me the odds.
I think it happens a little bit less often now than it used to, just because there is a higher population of players, especially like engaged at top legend, that are refining those types of decks. They want their name attached to, that type of deck as well. So I think that there's I don't know, there just seems to be more motivation to figure those things out earlier now.
Yeah, the interesting thing I will just mention, it was Valdris. That seems like a fun card in this version of the deck. Like that could be a really, really big pop-off. Have you ever seen like a 12-card discount with a Mithril Rod? Because that shit is disgusting.
Any Rune Mithril Rod discount is disgusting, and just thinking about 12 cards now. Let's move on to our next cards here. Let's talk about Wild Seeds. Let's talk about some Hunter. So specifically, we're talking about this package. I'm going to limit it to Wild Spirits and Arelon. So Wild Spirits is the 3-mana spell that summons 2 and then speeds them up by 1, and then Arelon, which summons the 3 dormant minions. I haven't seen a ton of Spirit Poacher, but I just know that those 2 cards have been performing really, really well for me in just like a regular Beast Hunter list. Very similar to kind of what was going on prior to the expansion. I think there is debate on stuff like, I don't even know the first half of his name, Altimore, because I know Corb's still high on that card. He believes in it. I'm a believer in something like Frenzied Fangs, which is the 2-mana 6/6. So there's debate on stuff like that, but I think everybody's in agreement that Wild Spirits and Altimore are kind of busted, even in Wild. They work really, really nicely with stuff like Tundra Rhino and Starving Buzzard. So Beast Hunter looks really, really good. And I know it looks good in other Hunter decks. I know, Corb, you actually tried out just like a pure Face Hunter build, which is not something that I think has ever really existed in Wild. And you popped off in rank 1. I think you're like 11-4 with the deck. So first of all, congrats on that. But yeah, Wild Spirits are strong. How are you guys feeling about them?
Yeah, I slept on these. In part because we didn't see Wild Seeds until after we had already kind of evaluated the individual Wild Seed minions. So that really changes things, like speeding up the dormant time makes a big difference, and obviously summoning all of them at once makes a big difference. Yeah, I mean, I had success. These cards overperformed in a completely different like Hunter archetype that I was playing. They were just like independently good cards. And in particular the 3-mana spell like was just kind of nutty. Summoning 2 for 3 mana and speeding them up is a lot of words on a single card that makes it pretty strong. Yeah, so I mean, Corb's played with them more than I have, so I'm sure he has more to say.
Yeah, Wild Spirits. I mean, I think it's close between this and Vile Library. Like, which one's going to get nerfed first, basically? Like, I don't know. They're both so strong. The stats on it for Standard was what actually kind of encouraged me to go try, like, the Face Hunter deck, just because I saw just how absurd they were in the Standard win rates, and I'm like, this has to be good in Wild. Like beyond just playing them in Beast Hunter. Like, these are just going to be good in, like, every Hunter deck. I think Poacher is also, like, it's definitely a step below like Wild Spirits and Arelon, but that probably still makes it like the 3rd or 4th best card in like a lot of the decks that you're playing. So I really liked those cards. I think you just splash them and everything. I think Beast Hunter is probably the best deck in the format right now. The fact that Face Hunter is like looking good as well, despite like it's Face Hunter, right? Like how good could Face Hunter be? And the fact that Zatic is doing really well, I think, speaks a ton for just how busted these cards are and how good Beast Hunter is, which is probably just a much better deck in general. So, yeah. so busted. And also, yes, I'm a Ultimate believer, Meowth, and you know, until I'm proven wrong, I'm never letting that go.
Yeah, well, I don't know when you're ever going to be proven right, because convincing others, Wild players, to play the 7-drop in their deck is going to be rough.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
I mean, I'm also a Frenzied Fangs believer, and I know you're not, so I don't know, we could just argue about this forever. But basically, guys, what we can agree on, play the Wild Seeds, the Wild Spirits, Aerolon, like this package. Play them as much as you
While
can,
you can.
before they get
Yeah.
nerfed, right? Because I think it's very obvious that at least Wild Spirits is, on the watch list for standard, right? And so I would be very surprised if it didn't get touched eventually. So jam games, enjoy the Beast Hunter. I think Beast Hunter is, I know Corb, you've shared the sentiment before, but I would just, Beast Hunter is like one of the kind of the epitome of wild decks, right? Where like it does the mana cheat, has the bunch of synergy, but it doesn't like, it's not oppressively swingy game ending on turn 4 kind of mana cheat. It's, playing Buzzard and doing stuff like that with the Wild Spirits and Tundra. Like it feels like the epitome of what a wild deck wants to be. And so I've really been enjoying it as like one of the best meta decks. And so I think you guys just jam the games and enjoy it, learn it, and play it while we still have kind of peak Beast Hunter. All right, let's move into the next package of cards here. Everybody's favorite deck. Let's talk about Secret Mage. So specifically, we're talking about Chatty Bartender, the 4-mana 4/4. If you control a secret at the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to all enemies. Still do not know why it hits the opponent's face, but here we are. And Orion, which is the new legendary, the 4-mana 3/5. When a friendly mage secret triggers, give it +2/+2 and cast a random mage secret. So these are kind of the two new cards here, alongside probably the most busted card out of those three, the Anonymous Informant. The 2-mana 2/3, the next secret you play costs 0. So the package of these 5 cards, right, in Secret Mage. I'm not gonna lie to you, I haven't played much Secret Mage yet, but I know people have been playing around with the 30 and the 40 card version. When people play Bartender against me, it's gross. And so I know that card is still strong, but what have y'all's experience has been with the secret cards?
Yeah, deck seems good. Probably benefiting a little bit from the prevalence of Big Priest. Historically, that's been a relatively fine matchup. Although, things change a little bit with the possibility of a turn 3 Neptulon, but I think overall that deck probably wins more often than it loses. Yeah, I think the interaction between Chatty Bartender and Anonymous Informant is also like the powerful new thing, because you can carry over the 0-mana secret into the Chatty Bartender turn so that you ensure that you have it active, and like it's just gross and like decimating opponents' boards if they're trying to play for board for whatever silly reason in Wild Hearthstone in the Year of Our Lord 2022. I've still yet to see Orion do anything. So I don't know how to evaluate that, because like, yeah, he's been played against me, but I just make him die and then I win. It kind of feels like, I don't know. It kind of feels like a card that comes down and gets value when you're ahead, which is not necessarily the card that you really want in that matchup, because Secret Mage already excels when it gets ahead, and like a snowballing minion doesn't feel like the thing that it needs to get stronger. But then I don't know how disruptive the fact like him casting another secret is yet, because I've never seen it actually do anything, so who knows.
I actually expect to see a lot more Secret Mage, like, before the expansion. But it does feel like no one's really playing it. Like, or if people did, they played it, like, day one. They didn't win that many games, and they were just like, yeah, just moving on. It seems fine. Like, it's better than where it was, obviously. Like, Secret Mage went approximately 2 decades without picking up any new cards, and so it finally got something, which is good. And, like, Bartender is strong, Anonymous is strong, but I don't know, it just seems to be underperforming a little bit. I thought that the weakness of not having the really premium early game would have been fixed with Anonymous and the Bartender, but it does feel like it's still lacking, like a mana worm in particular.
I mean, it fell pretty hard, so it had a long way to climb up, and like 2 cards is a good start, but like it's not. They're very strong cards, but like it's not. It's not necessarily the archetype carrying cards that are necessary, because it's still a 4-mana card in Wild Hearthstone that like only does 2 damage. So like it's like you need multiple turns for that to be churning out in order to really, like, I don't know, make enough progress in terms of the opponent's life total to win games of Hearthstone. So like, yeah, it had a big hole to dig itself out of, and I'd like it. Yeah, these 2 cards helped a lot, but like it had a lot of ground to gain back, and I don't think it's gotten there yet. And I think that a lot of people seem okay with that. As Corb mentioned, not a lot of people are playing it, probably because they got tired of Secret Mage after, however long it was one of the top dogs in Wild. So
Yeah.
I will mention a novelty, just that I haven't seen a lot of people bring up. The running Sketchy Stranger with Multicaster is kind of like an idea that crossed my mind, because you could pick up like a Holy Spell from Paladin, which could kind of help fuel things. So if Sage is feeling too expensive, that could be like something that people explore. But as I'm saying this, I'm realizing I'm talking about people exploring the intricacies and a building of Secret Mage, and that's just never gonna actually happen, is it?
Personally, I liked the 40 card version with multicasters and Sage, and because like you have a lot more cards to dig through, so you need a lot more card draw. And I think I kind of missed the opportunity for something like a that sketchy whatever
Stranger. That one. Yeah.
That one. The Discover Secret. I didn't even think about that interaction with multicaster, and that's probably a reason to play it in that deck now.
All right, so 40 card multicaster Secret Mage back to save the meta. I know a lot of people were kind of hoping, praying that it would have been good enough to maybe suppress some of the Quest Mage and Pillager Rogue. And it doesn't seem like it's that strong, but it is a lot stronger than it used to be, right? And so it is back in the metagame. It is something that you'll probably see again on ladder, even if it's not super frequently. Okay, let's move into Rogue, though. So let's start. There's a couple of Rogue decks. I think 3 decks that I want to talk about in particular. So let's start with a fun one. Let's talk about Miracle Rogue, right? So the Sinstone Graveyard, Necrolord, Draka, and then maybe you're running Sonya Knowles. Maybe you're just doing good old-fashioned, fair Miracle Rogue things. This is a deck I had a ton of fun playing day one. I was playing the Sonya Knowles stuff. I know, Raffle, you were super hype about this as well. And I know, Corb, you played a bunch of this because I played against you a million times in the mirror, which was super weird. The deck's a ton of fun to play. But I guess question to you guys is, how good do we think the deck is? Is it just a for fun deck that you'll bust out once every month? Or is it something that you actually think has a place in the meta?
Depends on which version we're talking about. If we're talking the Sonya Knoll one, it's okay. It seems pretty good. It's hard to evaluate right now. We don't have enough people playing it. It seems like it depends on how many big priests you queue into, because that's free. If you like draw your cards in a reasonable order. So yeah, I don't know. It seems kind of easy to exploit though, just by like not having very many stuff on board. And so it's a very reactive deck, I think, is probably its biggest weakness. It's a reactive deck in a metagame that at times shifts towards not being very interactive in terms of the board state. So it's that version has, I imagine, no chance against a Quest Mage, against a Pillager Rogue, against that style of deck. So if things shift back in that direction, even like a Quest Hunter, you're just kind of watching the opponent play the game for a while. So I think that alone will probably limit the ceiling of that style of deck. But like there is another more tempo based version that probably I don't know, because it's more proactive, has a better chance at being the real deal.
Yeah, is it a fun deck or a good deck? I don't know. Like, I threw so many games with it day one, like, it was kind of rough. I don't know. It's really, really fun. I will say that much. Like, I mostly liked the non-Sonya version. But I understand, like, there's a lot of appeal of, infinitely playing my Knolls over and over and clearing a big priest board. Like, that is also very good a different way. But yeah, there was probably the deck that I saw the most hype about in the first like 24 hours, but I've seen very little of it after that. As people kind of gravitated back towards other stuff. But I do think it's going to be more of a specialty type deck that probably like a few people play and maybe main and things like that. But I don't expect it to be too insane for now. I think like long term, there's like some very powerful stuff going on. But like just for now, there's probably not quite enough.
Yeah, I think for the tempo version of the deck, I'm really waiting on that Octobot rotation and Reaver, and then really get excited about that. But for now, I had a ton of fun playing it. It's a very difficult deck to play. and sometimes you're going to get into some really weird situations with your hand and, you know, not be able to play things for 3 turns and then have to pop off. But it's a lot of fun to play. Let's talk about a deck that's not so fun to play against, though. Let's talk about Pillager Rogue. Bone Spike. Serrated Bone Spike seems to be pretty good in that deck from what I've seen. I've seen a lot of Pillager Rogue players playing that in combination with Door of Shadows. They're running Door of Shadows as just a kind of weighted cantrip. Draw out some more tutors. This is specifically with the 6 minion version of Pillager Rogue that's a little bit more susceptible to disruption, but more consistent at comboing as fast as possible. So how are we feeling about those 2 cards in something like Pillager Rogue?
I've only run into it a few times, and it did seem like it sped up the deck a fair amount, just because of, like you said, the reduction in minions is a big deal, because between Swindles and Shrouds, you can pretty much draw the minions that you need, and then win the game pretty reliably on turn 4 or 5, which is exactly what happened to me. And then the serrated bone spike or whatever it is, like, yeah, seems to be a pretty good way to just kind of get your fraud online, or like you could prep it out, play it for free, get your fraud online, play the if you have a shark in play. So basically, turn 4 combo is shark, prep the new spell, play the fraud, play the scabs, do your bouncy things, play your pillagers, win the game on turn 4. And like that's like note for note exactly what happened to me. And doesn't feel great when that happens, but not sure. Like it's still Pillager Rogue, and it still runs into Pillager Rogue problems, right? Like, it probably, because of the speed at which it can combo now, it probably gets underneath people's rats pretty reliably, because like your opponents still have to draw the rats in order to do them. Have like 2/3 of your minions are sharks, which just like, thanks, you made my combo easier. So like I don't know that it's that susceptible to disruption. I think it just I don't know. I think aggro is probably the way to keep it in check. And that will likely always be the case unless it gets more like, I don't know, hard counters or more ice block effect type things. But I haven't queued into it a whole lot. I don't think people are like playing it at my rank, so I'm not certainly an expert on it, but I have been steamrolled by it a few times and it feels bad.
Yeah, the what's it called again? The bone spike? Is that, I already forget. Still learning names.
Bone Spike, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, serrated bone spike. It's kind of funny. The Roller B, who's probably like, I don't know, in my opinion, probably like the best Pillager player in Wild from what I've seen. Not that I play a ton of Pillager, but I'm always very impressed when I play against them. They actually just aren't even playing that card in Pillager. That might change. Like, it's obviously still early. Like, I don't know how much they experimented with it, or if they wanted to, or if it just like whatever. It's like one player's list. But they're one of the more prolific ones, and they're just not even playing it. So I'm not actually sure. I saw a couple people using it, but like, I died on turn 4, straight up with no setup, just because someone went like prep serrated shark, and then they just did their full combo like on turn 4, and that felt really, really bad. So I'm not entirely sure. Like, I expected to get into the list, but the fact that one of the more recognizable Pillager players isn't playing it is kind of giving me a little bit pause. It's not a deck that I really want to go experimenting with too much. Like, I don't really have a lot of interest in Pillager Rogue, but I'm hoping that it's bad. I'm hoping that the new card is bad, because when it pops up, it definitely speeds up the deck quite a bit, which is kind of terrifying. So yeah, we'll have to see. But well, I don't really have any.
Is this one of those situations? Is this one of the situations that we really have to hope that it is insanely good and starts popping off, so that, you know, maybe it's something that they look at as something to...
We're talking about a deck that is only played by the top, like, 0.01% of the population for the most part. Like, it exists a little bit outside top bracket, but it never is going to perform super great. And so I think the odds of this ever getting nerfed would be so close to 0. You know, like, things have to be at a certain level of popularity and power to get touched in Wild specifically. And this is not big Shaman.
Yeah. All right.
No, and I think, yeah, it would take a lot of time for it to, first of all, trickle down the ladder, because like Corb said, it's something that's traditionally been very isolated at the top of the ladder. And then also, even once it gets further down the ladder, would take a lot of time before it's recognized as the menace that it is. So I don't think that's something we want to wish for.
All right, so then let's just wish for Serrated Bonespike to be bad in that deck. This one you can thank Dane Hearth for. Freaking Dane. This is Big Rogue. Some new toys here, specifically in Masked Reveler. And so this is a card that I think a lot of us kind of just overlooked when it was in the card dump. But this is a 6-mana 4/4 with Rush that says Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 copy of another minion in your deck. So basically the play pattern here is sketchy information in Snowfall Graveyard. So sketchy information will only draw you your Cobalt Illusionist. And then with the Snowfall Graveyard, you kind of just snowball the cheating of stuff like Neptulon, the Masked Reveler, which will cheat out minions from your deck, not even needing them to be in your hand. And then I've seen some experimentation with the new 10-drop, the General, the 8/8 with Rush, Death Rattle, summon another 8/8. So yeah, basically, I've seen multiple screenshots from Dane, and I played a little bit of this on stream myself today, and it can be kind of gross where you just have insanely stupid board states as early as turn 3, turn 4 because of these cards. The fact that you can cheat out a 1/1 Neptulon and it comes with hands, and then you can do it again, and then it's Neptulon is kind of gross in big decks, but kind of just in general, Big Rogue, how are you feeling about it? How powerful do you think it is?
Seems pretty gross. I haven't queued into it a lot. Same with Pillager Rogue. It's not one that, like, for whatever reason, seems to spread. It's always had kind of this cult following to it, in part because of the popularity of Dane and the fact that it's like been his pet deck for so long that like it's had a Dead Man's Hand like cult following for quite some time. But then it all every once in a while it'll kind of creep up and be like, hey, this is the real like menace in our format. Like this is not that much different than Big Priest and should be kind of treated in a similar way. And I think now is maybe one of those times where it is probably in a similar place to Big Priest. It gets online at a similar speed. It doesn't have like the late game resilience, but when you're getting a turn 2, 3, 4 Neptulon, you don't need late game resilience because you win the game. Like, and yeah, the speed at which Neptulon just steals games is becoming very apparent and kind of absurd in both of those decks. And Masked Reveler helps, but like Dane was having quite a bit of success before the expansion with that deck as well, just by like steamrolling people with Neptulon. So like it seems like Neptulon seems to be the thing that's doing the thing in that archetype as well as Big Priest, because like yeah, Big Priest had Illuminate into Shadow Essence for an entire expansion, and it wasn't really until the mini set that like we saw a lot of Big Priest popping up and like things started happening with that deck. So Neptulon seems like the common denominator to me, because Big Shaman also kind of came out of nowhere with some Neptulon shenanigans. So
hey, but Neptulon's not the new card. That's not the one we have to be talking about. Come on, it's the new card obviously that's breaking Big Rogue. Come on.
Yeah, a lot of the people that I see loving and playing Big Rogue are the same ones that are hating and complaining about Big Priest. But this is okay because it's worse and in Rogue and not Priest. This kind of points out the hypocrisy of people crying about Big Priest but calling Big Rogue novel and fun, when at its core it's about cheating out 8 mana minions on turn 4. That's not my opinion. That's a Meowth quote from 2018 on Twitter, by the way, verbatim.
Oh, shit.
So you guys can go hunting for that tweet if you really want to. But it's kind of funny. We're 4 years later. We're in the same situation. Big Rogue seems really good. It does seem really good, and that's really terrifying because I don't like Big Priest very much. A lot of people don't like Big Priest very much. And I don't really want more Big Priest type decks. I do think that there does seem to be a difference in... The resurrection part of Big Priest has always been like a unique sticking point and complaint for people. And that obviously doesn't exist as much in Rogue. But in terms of the early game mana cheating, the early Neptulons and things like that, those are still like a real thing in Rogue. And I think it could pose very similar play pattern concerns. It is interesting, like Ruffle was talking about, how this is now like the third deck that we've seen in a very short time frame that is about abusing Neptulon, like on turn 3, turn 4. And makes you think a little bit about the future of the format and where we're headed and whether this is going to be a long-term issue.
So it wasn't turn 3 or turn 4, but I mentioned a hunter deck that I was playing that uses the wild seeds quite effectively, and that was a deck that used Mass Reveler and only Mass Reveler as its minion to cheat out Neptulon. So
Yeah.
I was getting it on turn 4 or 5 because I was running the Carrion studies to reduce the cost of my Mass Reveler to get her down early. I got to tell you, not very good. Not nearly as good as doing that in Rogue or Priest, but still stole a lot of games between that and the Wild Seeds. Like, Neptulon early, very good.
I know Dane's been kind of championing on Twitter a Neptulon ban potentially in the future, and I know that's not something that we're really going to have time to dive into today, but it is something interesting where, like, the common denominator, like Raffle said, is Neptulon to all of these decks, and the issue is in the past has always been like speed of getting out the big minions, and now that they can get things out, they gave them a big minion that just ends games in one turn, which is kind of the combination of the two is pretty gross. Also, you started off on that really, really well-worded response, and I was like, damn, he was prepped for this. He knew that we were going to talk about Big Rogue. I don't even remember tweeting that, but I agree 100% with everything that was said. So
I remember.
I got the link. All right, I got the link for you. You can go. You can retweet that. You can quote tweet it right there in the Discord. There you go.
I'll do that as soon as we're done recording this episode. You know I'm going to. All right, let's move into Shaman here. Let's talk about totems. I've tried both of the lists. I think even Shaman is the one that we probably should be talking about the most here. So we're looking at Chisel. So this is the 2-mana 1/3 weapon that summons totems whenever you attack. Stonewright, the legendary that gives your totems +2 attack for the rest of the game, and then Giga Totem, the giant 0-mana 8/8. Guys, even Shaman, I had my hesitations coming into the expansion of, like, I feel like it's still missing something. It might not even need that something because, like, the early stats that are rolling out on HS Replay and just kind of the general feel of playing the deck feels really good. Like, even Shaman seems like it might unironically be back. Like, it seems like a very good deck.
Yeah, like the cards that it got just like amplify what the deck's strength has always been, which is its consistency. So now it has more ways to get totems online. It has more things to do once it gets totems online, and it has one more thing that it can cheat out for very little mana after it's played a bunch of totems. So basically, like, it's, you know, it's good cards for a good archetype, and then, like, there's a little bit of redundancy in some of the things that it's doing, which is what the deck wants because it's always excelled in its consistency and reliability. So, like, stacking redundancy on top of the deck is probably just a good thing. It's like it's amplifying the things that it was already good at doing with more things that it's good at doing. And so it's like, yeah, it seems very good. I've played against it a bunch. It always seems pretty spooky. I haven't played it yet myself, but, like, just in observation, it seems pretty good.
Yeah, the normal non-even version is kind of the one that I wanted to be better. Like, it seemed a little bit more interesting to me. And that deck can definitely, I think, like, when that deck hits its curve, it's better. But that's kind of the whole point of the Gen hero power, right? Is that you don't need to curve out because you always curve out. Like, you don't need to draw your cards. It's so consistent. And so even Shaman does seem like the better totem deck. As disappointing as that is, but yeah, you do get some super strong stuff. Like Stone Ride is just like, oh god, that card is just like Kaliseth. Like, it's so strong. It ain't even like Giga Totem. No, wait, we had this issue on the last episode. How are we told to pronounce this?
I am just saying Giga Totem.
Jig-
I've given up on pronouncing it the right way. It's 0-mana 8/8.
Giga? Okay, Giga.
Yeah, Giga Totem.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing about even Shaman to me so far is that it actually seems fine into Rogue. I thought that was going to be like the big thing that held it back. But that matchup seems to be fine from what we're seeing, like early stats wise. So that's something worth note. Like, you don't even need to be doing the whole Maelstrom portal thing, even without running like kind of tech for it. It's okay. Even Shaman is definitely like a couple cards away, I think, from being really clean. There are definitely like the last few slots feel a little like ugh, no matter what direction you go in. But that's fine. Like, the deck is pretty solid. It's probably like, I wouldn't be shocked if even Shaman just becomes like the best like new quotation marks like new deck of the expansion. Even if again it's a tribal aggro deck with limited recovery, it will not be that popular at top legend, I don't think. But you know what? If you're a little below that, it'll probably be like one of the top performers in the format, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned it feels like it's lacking maybe 1 or 2 cards. There is a mini set coming out eventually, and they did give us a Totem Legendary, so maybe that fills the gap. Could be nice, but we'll have to wait and see.
Just give us Impending Catastrophe for totems. Is that too much to ask for?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
do that.
I have resorted to running. Do you guys remember Cornelius Rome and how high certain people?
Oh, none.
I mean, you
for
just put that card in every deck, though, so like this is nothing new.
But I
Like-
shoved it in Even Shaman, and it was actually really good because you're that desperate for card draw on that deck, and so
Sure
it was. Yeah.
Well, we got tweets from 2018 and we got cards from 2020. Like everything that you need here.
Yeah, dude. Throwback.
Actually,
episode
when
here
was
on State
Rogue?
of
When did
Wild.
Rogue come out? God, Rome feels like it's been in the game
Stormwind.
forever.
It came out in Stormwind, so it came out last year.
Oh my god. Oh god. Okay. Yeah.
I was so hyped because it would have been so good in the meta prior to quest lines, and then quest lines came out, and then everything just got.
Yeah, it's quest lines that made
Hey,
Cornelius
it would have
unplayable.
been good. Okay, I'm not that.
Sure.
I'm not on that much copium. Okay, like it would have been good in the grindy meta that we were just in the meta with like full of Metanuses and Reno Locks and LPG mages. Like it would have been good. Anyways, okay, you got me on a rant. Look what you did. Come on, let's talk about.
We were
Druid.
agreeing with you.
I can't tell if you are sarcastically or not, though. That's the issue.
Oh, the listeners know. They know whether we're being sarcastic or not.
I hate you guys. Druid. All of the same Druid decks are good from prior to the patch, except it all seems like they've pivoted a little bit to add and build around 2 new cards. Topior, the 7-mana 5/5 dragon, which for some reason stacks when you get copies off of Moonlit Guidance, which is really gross, by the way. And then Denathrius just gives it another kind of payoff for doing the gloop seeds, gloop flipper, gloop whatever scale was the last one. Shenanigans
Because
of the deck.
that stuff wasn't strong enough already, so we needed to
Exactly.
really push that mechanic.
Yeah. And so it does seem like with the inclusion of those 2 cards and then maybe going like a little heavier on like the nature theme, stuff like Togwaggle Alignment Druid, stuff like Dragon Druid, stuff like Cthulhu Druid, stuff like Reno Druid, all of these things that existed prior to the patch all got a little bit of a buff here. Like I've actually seen kind of weirdly enough widespread adoption of the non-Oaken Summons Renathal Druid builds because of stuff like Sire Denathrius, because now you can just like shove Bran in at no expense, right? And you have the 40 health, and you have all of this consistency, and you have the healing now from Denathrius. It's Druid is gross.
And
That 4-mana ramp card. Yeah.
yeah, the 4-mana ramp card and the possibility to run Phlebidinous Floop too. Like is just nasty because you have a lot.
I love that card.
I do too. And Corb, I love your list.
Thank you.
It's easily been some of the most fun that I've had with the new expansion. The only thing I did is I cut the Malygos and the damage spells because I didn't want games to end. Like I wanted to keep playing the deck, and I wanted to see how big I could get Daddy Denathrius. And that was like that. I just leaned into that entirely, and it was so good. I don't even like. I lost track of what turn it was because I was just doing Druid things. But like, I'm pretty sure on the same turn, I played a Floop's Gloop, broke my Twig, and then played Bran, Denathrius, and then Floop the Denathrius all in the same turn, and just obliterated someone. And it was, it was just beautiful. And so like. I love that deck. I've vastly underestimated like the effectiveness of Topior in that style of deck, just for giving you extra fuel for the Denathrius. Phenomenal deck into Big Priest as well, because like what does Big Priest do? It summons you a bunch of minions that you can run those little whelps into. The whelps have cute synergy with Onyxia, who is also probably wants to be in the deck. Onyxia has sweet synergy with Denathrius. Like the deck is just beautiful. And because it does Druid things and just draws a bunch of cards, like sure, yeah, I'll run 40 cards. What do I care? Like Oaken Summons who? I've got a guy that ramps and draws me a card. I used to have to choose one of those things and do it like you know, symmetrically with my opponent too. Like, who wants to do that? Just play one 4-mana card that does both instead of a 3-mana card where you have to like help your opponent out. Who wants that?
That deck that the Rolf was talking about, like I loved it. That was so much fun. Like it feels everything just like feels like it kind of fits together, and it's all just very satisfying. And like Forbidden Floop is a card that, when they first announced the core set in Druid, it was kind of a card that I wanted to go back to standard. Like it was probably like a little too complicated and stuff for like a core set card, but I felt that card in particular, it hadn't had its time to shine in Wild for so long because of Oaken Summons, but I just love what it can open up and like the type of plays that you can have, especially with like Malagos and Sire. And even I guess like with Topia, the new dragon, is also like very, very sick when you get to double up on that effect. So very, very cool card. And now with Renathal, it's a bit more justified than it used to be. So yeah, really, really fun.
Yeah, Druid is strong enough at this point where like even when you're going to 40 cards, I'm like still trying to figure out like what good cards to run and cut, which is like it's got an embarrassment of riches. The class is full of a whole bunch of broken synergies, and it feels like these Dragon Druids, Alignment Druids style decks can have the perfect storm of everything now. Where like it's got the perfect amount of card draw, lots of ramp, tons of like alternate win cons. Like even if they hit your Sire Denathrius, you still have the Malagos, or if you like get hit with the Malagos, you can still like brand Denathrius, floop somebody. Like it's gross. I don't know. Like Druid, if somebody was getting into Wild, like Druid is the class that you point them to because like the class feels like it can do no wrong at this point, and it got even better here in Castle, Murder at Castle Nathria. Okay, one last deck to talk about, or just kind of card. I mean, just Denathrius in general. It's kind of want to wrap up the episode on. Because I don't know about you guys, but I remember us like not being super hype on the card. And it was a card. It was a card we were not excited about. We thought it was going to be okay, right? Like
Ruffles giving walls.
Yeah. We didn't think, at least personally, I thought it was going to be strong specifically in Druid because that's like what the class already wanted to do. But just kind of outside of Druid is where I've been like the most impressed with Denathrius. Where like it just is slotting into a bunch of other random archetypes, and it's really good. And so I know you guys are probably gonna hate this for me for saying this, but like I played him a lot in Free Shaman. I was playing some 40 card Free Shaman. Denathrius is like really gross just in that deck. Primarily because Shutterwalk and Mecha, like if you Denathrius somebody for like 12, each of your like if you follow it up with a Mecha, the Mecha is also gonna deal 12 damage. And each of your Shutterwalks that you play is going to deal 12 damage. And so it has some really, really nice synergy there. And you're already having a lot of stuff die. You're in Shaman. I've seen people play it in Hero Power Mage. Like, people are playing it everywhere. And I'm kind of just surprised just, like, how good the card in general is. Like, even outside of Druid.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I think we overestimated, like, how hard 10 mana is to get to. But, like, some of the downside of a 10 mana card is often that it sits in your hand, but like that turns out to be a bit of an upside for Denathrius because like he ramps up by the time you get to the 10 mana, he's playable. I think a big part is something that I touched on, but only lightly, is the fact that like lifesteal is a big deal when it scales. Like scaling lifesteal, we've seen with spell power, we've seen with a lot of other instances, even like the doubling effects with Il'gynoth, like scaling lifesteal is an incredibly powerful thing in Hearthstone. And yeah, it's a cool card. I've even heard rumors of a janky Bran Kael'thas Denathrius with an Il'gynoth on the board type combo where you actually end up like quadrupling up the lifesteal damage thanks to Il'gynoth and Bran. But like I don't think you need to get that cute with him. I think you can just like play him for 10 mana and say, well, I just healed and cleared a portion of your board. It's your go. Also, there's this 10/10 with lifesteal on the board, so still your turn. Figure it out. Like
the most underestimated part of Denathrius is that 10/10 lifesteal body that sticks around after everything. It's really gross.
Yeah, it heals you up to 40 like every single time. Like if it doesn't instantly end the game.
nobody's running single target removal right now, and like the mass removal that we're seeing in play is like hysteria versions that like require you to get more healing, basically. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I had a fun game against Pirate Rogue where I was playing Evolved Shaman, and I evolved into a Denathria, so I was like turn 4 or turn 5 or something, and I was just like, oh, the game's over. Like, you have to hit that, but if you hit it, you die. Like, I heal up, and yeah, it's just instantly over. Yeah, there's the Chaos stuff. The Chaos stuff seems to be kind of popping off in Standard, and I wonder if that'll be a little bit adopted in Wild. Just because, yeah, like with Bran and Bolner, it's pretty disgusting. Like, it's very consistent. Those are just like standalone good cards, and like if Side's a standalone good card, then it starts making a lot more sense. Even with the Chaothus, right? Like Chaothus and Schooling, you might be able to get like a Shutterwalk down as early as turn 7. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some experimentation with like Schooling and things like that, and we see some of the adoption of some of the ideas that we've seen in Standard into the free Shaman in Wild. But yeah, definitely like underestimated the card outside of Druid. Thought it was just gonna be Druid card. Again, it's not the kind of card that excites me personally that much. Like, I remember this being a bit underwhelmed and a little bit bored by it. But I am more interested now in sort of the... Now that I think it's not just a Druid card, I think the deck building is a little bit more interesting. Even if the effect still doesn't, like, blow me away that much.
That didn't make Ruffle happy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ruffle. Like, I look, I'm sorry.
But he's just so hot.
Oh gosh. All right. Basically, Ruffle, you broke me. I don't know what to go from here.
How do you transition from that? Yeah,
I don't
know. How do you move on from that? That's like...
Oh gosh. Anyways,
tough. Yeah.
Play Denathrius. Make Ruffle happy. That's all you guys got to do. Play Denathrius in your Pirate Rogue, so at least he sees that, right? And doesn't complain too much about you playing the same old.
At least they'll be running a new card against me. That's fine. That's fine.
Speaking of Pirate Rogue, do not be playing the same 30 card. Play Door Shadows in your Pirate Rogue, by the way. Like, it's a very good card. Cut the cutting classes, and then run either 1 Door Shadows and a Starfish, or run 2 Door Shadows. It's good. Trust me. And that way, at least you're running new cards when you jam into Ruffle, and he goes slightly less insane. He'll still go insane, but just slightly less so.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, so we just talked about a bunch of cards, bunch of decks. It's obviously still super early, right? Still tons of stuff to play, still tons of stuff to experiment with. Still plenty of time until the meta starts to settle down. Just a reminder, they do tend to do a balance patch for Standard about 2 weeks after a expansion launches. So in about a week from when this podcast episode goes live, probably keep an eye out for maybe a balance change, and maybe it'll shake up everything that we just talked about today and make it obsolete. But when you hear this episode, play the crap out of all the cards that we talked about and all the decks that we talked about while you can. Just kind of wrap up the episode. Just general thoughts and feels with the new expansion. How have you guys been enjoying streaming and playing the new stuff?
Like I said at the beginning, like it feels like I don't know. It's the biggest mismatch I've seen between my like observed power level of the set and like the community's perception of the set, because I still have people in my Discord, in my Twitch chat saying the set is offered nothing. They had no impact at all. And I'm just like, are we playing the same game? Are we looking at the same cards here? Like, look at the list of decks that we touched on, and that's like legitimately not even everything that people have been playing and taken to high ranks with the new cards. We completely omitted certain classes just because they didn't really have like the same play rate, prevalence, or success rate. Like, you could talk about an inner fire priest if you wanted to, an inner rage type warrior. Like, there are a lot of other archetypes that have been bolstered by this expansion that we didn't necessarily touch on. And people are still seemingly treating it as though it's non-existent, both in terms of what they say and their actions in the decks that they're playing. So it's kind of a weird situation. Like, yeah, I understand that like a lot of people can't get every single new card from the expansion and like therefore, you know, might be reserved, but that's not like it's never been like 50% of my opponents before that are legitimately not playing a single new card. And like the same applies for, well, yeah, I understand that Wild is a place where people tend to fixate on a single deck, and that's the appeal to it, is I can keep coming back to that deck. But again, that's never been like this high a percentage of my opponents before. So it's this weird mismatch between like the perceived power level and the actual power level of the new cards that I can't think of a time where that has happened before.
Yeah, it is really interesting. The sort of reluctance to kind of move on to new stuff, and again, it just highlights this issue that we sometimes have in Wild, where just because there are like a much smaller number of content creators and this is much less visibility, that people that just want to slap a net deck, they have a lot less options than they do in Standard. Like Standard, it feels like everything's a lot more accessible and they can kind of just pick up and adopt whatever. But it's just a little bit slower in Wild. It tends to happen like that. But this does feel like a little bit of an extreme scenario where, like Rolls was talking about, there's a lot of new stuff and the set does seem very, very strong. Interestingly, like, the classes that are bad in Wild, right, they're not even that bad because of the new cards. Like, Warrior, for example, I think is really, really struggling in Wild. Not as much as it is in Standard. Standard's probably just abysmal. But it's not because of the new cards. Like, the anime, I forgot its full name, but the new 2-mana 1/4, like, that card is insane. And that card, like, can definitely prop up something in the future, but it's just there's not quite the same necessarily shell around it. But the nice thing is that because the same kind of classes are struggling in both formats, I think it's very likely that we're going to see some buffs in Standard, which means that those will be positive, buffs, I think, for Wild as well. It's not really a mismatch where like they might be buffing classes that are already strong and things like that, or archetypes that don't need a buff in Wild. Hopefully this time things align really cleanly and we might be able to get even more playable stuff, which is exciting. But yeah, so far I think there's been a pretty large impact. Even if there aren't like a ton of completely new decks, I think there's a ton of cards seeing play. And it's Wild, right? Like, this is probably an above average like impact, which is pretty huge so far.
Yeah, I can only speak to my own experience, but I have had the most fun that I've had in recent memory on expansion launch. I remember on Tuesday, so normally I limit myself to just like, I play when I stream so that I don't burn out of a game, even like during expansion time. Like, I'll stream a little bit more during expansion launches. But I sat there and I streamed for 8 hours on expansion launch, logged off, grabbed dinner, and then played for like 3 or 4 more hours. And that was just like on Tuesday. Like, I'm having so much fun this week. I will say, I think I'm a little spoiled. I feel a little bad for you, Raffle, where like at Higher Legend, that's where you're hitting the much more engaged player base, and these are the players that are much more willing to buy new cards and then play with new cards and experiment with them. And so, yeah, I've been playing against Pirate Rogues and some Pillager Rogues and some Alignment Druids, but I've also had a very, positive experience of like, I'm still seeing a lot of new cards. And so I when you say stuff like that, it hurts because I can't imagine that, and I feel so bad.
I think I had like the exact opposite day one experience where I was just like, I got to log off because I was legitimately queuing into like 50% Pirate Rogue and Big Priest the entire day, and I was just like, I can't struggle through this anymore. I think part of that was just it happened to land on the 2nd of the month, so a lot of people were just like, hey, I need to climb for the new season, and I know this deck is going to get me there fast, and I just happen to be queuing into that type of opponent, and so it's just like a kind of unfortunate situation. So I see things getting a little bit better as things go on, which is usually the opposite of what happens, right? Like people move back towards their comfort decks rather than move from their comfort decks to the new stuff as the set goes on. But yeah, I'm hopeful that this won't continue throughout the entire month. I think it's just an unfortunate timing with the expansion in terms of where I was sitting in my rank band.
Yeah, I hope it gets better, because I like Corb mentioned, there's a ton of new cards. Like, even though I don't even think there's a brand new deck outside of like Implock, like a brand new archetype that has kind of spawned from this new expansion, but there are so many playable cards throughout all of these classes. Like, even stuff like you mentioned, like in Rage Warrior, even stuff like Demon Hunter has got new stuff that's strong that are helping the classes. And so I've barely gotten through like maybe even half of the things that I want to mess around with and play. And so I'm really enjoying expansion launch. Hopefully yours gets a little bit better, Raffle, and hopefully everybody that's listening is also enjoying expansion launch. I don't know, I'm excited. It seems like it's it's a very impactful expansion, but it's not impactful in the way that something like Stormwind was, where it completely upended the format. Where this expansion seems like it's buffed a lot, it's having a lot of card seed play, but there's no complete shake up, and everything that we knew about the format gets thrown out the window, like there was in Stormwind, which is, I think, the way that it should be most of the time when expansions come.
I think it's about where we wanted. I think Corb hit it on the head. It's like probably above average in terms of power level, which, just above average, I would say, which is a good thing. We don't want it like leaps and bounds above average to the point where we take that giant jump forward like we have been quite a few times in recent memory. So yeah, I think I think it's in a good spot, like in terms, and maybe that's where people's expectations have been warped a little bit by like the explosions in power level that we've had previously, to where it's not registering as a powerful set in comparison to those, but like it is. Like it absolutely is.
All right, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this week's episode, though. Hopefully we touch on a lot of decks. We're going to drop a lot of deck codes down in the description, so if you guys are interested, make sure you guys check that out. And like Raffle mentioned, there was a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't even touch on this week that we probably could have, right, for a lot of these classes. And so we'll probably kind of dive deeper into a couple of these decks next week, as well as maybe touch on some of those that we didn't touch on this week later on. But hopefully everybody's enjoying the expansion. Hopefully you guys are enjoying playing with the new cards, and make sure you guys check out all three of our content, whether it's on Twitch or on YouTube or anything like that. And you guys do want to, first of all, thanks for joining me again and again. And let the people know where they can find you guys.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube and Twitch at Raffle, and Twitter and Instagram at RaffleHS.
And you can find me at Corbett on Twitch and Corbett Games on Twitter and YouTube.
You guys can find me at Get Me Up on all these platforms. God, I'm never good at wrapping these things up. I forgot that we're supposed to, we do have a giveaway, technically. We still have some more stuff to give out, thanks to Blizzard. So just like we did a couple of weeks ago, you'll find a link down in the description. Just make sure you click that, fill out whatever we ask you. It'll take you 2 minutes, not even that, it'll take you 30 seconds, and you'll be entered to win, and we will let you guys know by the end of the week. Appreciate all of you guys listening week after week. Thanks for listening all the way to the end of the episode, and we'll see you guys again next time.